Hello everybody, and today I would like to talk to you about a game which I got, I want to say about 12 years ago at this stage, maybe even more. And it's called Mythos, and it's a game that was released in the 1990s. And as somebody, when I did the unboxing for the Necronomicon expansion, said, this is an old game. It's true, it is old in terms of it was released 22 years ago. At least the cards that I have a copyright of 1996. But just because something is old doesn't mean we can't play it, and just because something is old doesn't mean it's not worth anything. So I don't know what that comment actually meant. As you know, I own war games that are older than me, and this game by no means is older than me. I have a lot of years on this game. And it is a CCG. You can still get stuff for it on eBay, and most recently I acquired the booster pack for the Necronomicon boosters, and I decided to kind of reconnect with this game at some point, a couple of, I would say 4 weeks ago maybe, and I don't really know what led to me deciding to give this game a go again. I have quite a lot of cards already, which I bought secondhand even then, so this is one of my card decks. So here I've got the allies, the monsters, and the tomes in here, and then of course I also had a couple of starter decks from the limited edition, the limited edition starter decks. We had some of those, and I've got one more basket full of goodness, and of course, since this is a CCG, you will have plenty of double cards. So yesterday I actually went through and removed any cards of which I had more than 4 copies, because the maximum limit per deck that you can have is 4 copies of each card. The game usually gets played opposed, so you would play against someone, and the way this works is it's a storytelling game. So you would create a story using cards that tell the story, and you play them. So when we zoom in here a little more, here we've got a heroic rescue, which is a 7-point adventure. So if you manage to complete this without going insane and without anything else happening to you, you would get 7 points. In an opposed game, you need 21 points to win. So when we read this text, we will notice that there are some words that are completely capitalized. So for example, a steadfast author. Whenever you come across a completely capitalized word, this refers to a card or card type that you need to play in order to complete this. So a steadfast author, friend and ally of yours, has been abducted by agents of the Mythos. Gathering your friends, you know you can rely on the reporter, capitalized, the doctor, the private eye, and the wife. The corrupt cultist has his lair in a cemetery where you corner him with a weapon and capture his terrible tome. So if you want to win this, what you need is you need to have a couple of friends with you. So first of all, you need to have a steadfast author. So let's see, you want to, when you put this together, you want to have a steadfast author in your deck. You also want to have a steadfast private eye and a doctor. Let's see, this is an artist. What is she? She's a wife. So we have Abigail Winthrop Marsh. She would be the wife. She could be one of the wives. You have the tome, one tome. You have a cemetery, which you can tell easily because you have this brown symbol here, which and also it's called, of course, burying ground. You have another wife. She's corrupt, but that's fine. It doesn't have to be a steadfast wife. It just has to be a wife, so you can marry to some weird person. What else do we have? We have he's a professor, that doesn't help us. We've got the steadfast reporter, Harvey Walters. He's important. Steadfast professor, we don't need him. So essentially, let's see if I actually built this correctly. Steadfast dreamer, he doesn't help us. Steadfast private eye, we need him. We've got plenty of professors, but don't we have a single author? Here's the steadfast doctor, Dr. Marinus Bicknell Willett. I like their names. Where is my author? So, she's a wife as well. No, she's the sister, isn't she? Yeah, no, she's the sister. She's the wife as well. Here we have Edgar Allan Poe, the steadfast author. There he is. So essentially, if you want to play this and win, you have to play the following cards. You have to have a steadfast author in your play deck, or in your story deck as it's called. You need a cemetery, you need a tome, you need a wife, you need the author, you need the doctor, you need the private eye, and you need the reporter. And you have to have a corrupt cultist, and we have at least 2 of those, I believe. Here is Barnabas Marsh, and he's super corrupt. He's a corrupt cultist, so we've got this covered. So as you try to fulfill this, you have to go to the relevant places in this case, the Arkham, Providence, Boston, Innsmouth area, where you can play those, because not every card can be played in every single location, for example. So there are certain allies that can be played in any city, and they're actually called any city, and then you have some that can only be played in Innsmouth, for example, because that's where they live, or they can only be played in Arkham because that's where they live. There are events which will allow you to play allies whenever you would like to play them. It's called, I think, a surprise meeting. If you play this event, then you can play any ally at any place. And so what you do is you go through your deck and try to fulfill these adventures, while your opponent, of course, is trying to do the same. He would have his own deck with his own adventures, and you will try to be quicker than your opponent and also to ensure that you set him back. And you can do this by playing cards that will attack his play area. For example, monsters that will fight him and his monsters. Or you can try and get rid of his ally cards to weaken him in a battle. You can also play phobias on him that will make him lose sanity or do other kinds of terrible things to them. And so you go through this, and whenever you say, oh, I've completed a story, you gain a reward. So this one would give you 3 sanity, plus 3 down here. And you get the 7 points. And your opponent then has the right to go through your story deck and check if you really have completed the story. I have never ever cheated because that would be cheap. But sometimes when you play loads of cards, it can kind of get a little bit confusing, and you might want to go over whether, yes, you have completed all of the stories items. So essentially how this is played is you put the stories into your deck. This is very important. You draw them just like you would draw normal cards. And you also have an avatar. And there are different avatars available in the game. Let's see. They're your investigators. They all have different skills. But they all have 2 very important stats, and that is education and sanity. So the saner you are, the longer you will last. You can regain sanity by, for example, going to sanitariums, or some allies that you play can also give you sanity when you play them. Some have a special ability. So, for example, this is the, what's his name? The Cleric of Fading Faith. And he can, as his turn One time during a round, he can discard one card and replace it with a new card drawn. He's so far the only one that, yeah, this one has a possibility as well. As your turn, one time during a round, you may discard one card and replace it with a new card drawn. During your discard phase, you must keep at least this minimum number of cards in your hand. You may keep up to your maximum. If you have fewer than your minimum, you may not discard any. If you have more than your maximum, you must discard some. I'm not sure why they actually say this, because this is actually part of the rules. I don't know if they why they printed it on this one, so maybe this was just to ensure that people understand what's going on. They also have an education value, which only comes into play when you play against someone, because then the player whose investigator has the highest sanity goes first. What is important is the languages, because there is a type of card which is called a tome, which can hold spells which you can cast, but you can only cast them if you know the language of the tome. So the tomes can be in English, French, there is a Chinese tome, there are tomes that are written in glyphs, and other languages. And if you don't know those languages, then you can't play those tomes. It's very simple. So we have... So for example, we've got the soulful jazz singer, and she speaks English. We've got the gifted musician who also knows English. And this doesn't really enter into it. This, for example, being a gifted musician doesn't help you if it's looking for a gifted musician in your adventure. It doesn't help you at all. So it has to be a card. It can't be your investigator. State university professor knows English and Latin. She knows English. She's an earnest reporter. The grizzled Boston detective knows English. The cleric of fading faith knows English and Latin. The haunted French sculptor knows French, unsurprisingly. Here we've got the capable graduate student who knows English. We have the respected New England doctor who happens to know German for some really weird reason. But there you have it. The pragmatic hobo knows no languages, so he probably just grunts. Well, I guess he can't read any. We have the proud Prussian submariner who knows German. The dilettante who knows English and French. The mad German inventor who knows German, but he's also pretty crazy. The exuberant Boston flapper who knows English. We've got the inquisitive Chinese intellectual who of course speaks and reads Chinese, which is important because we have at least one book that is in Chinese. The more morose veteran of the Great War, he knows English. And we have the unfortunate nephew who knows English. The controversial French mystic who also knows French. The bored clerk who knows English. The rebellious youth, she knows English. And the hardened Chicago gangster knows English as well. And we have the brilliant Egyptian archaeologist who knows Arabic and Greek. Interestingly enough, he doesn't speak any English. And you basically choose one of those. If you know that you will, for example, be playing out of the Necronomicon, you might want to use the Egyptologist, because a lot of the stuff that you would be... First of all, it's thematic. Where did he go? And of course, he speaks Arabic, which would help, because some of the tomes, if you want to build a thematic deck, you would have a lot of Arabic tomes in there. So I have only got the requirement of somebody speaking glyphs. So none of these would help me with this. So let's just take somebody who's got a very, very high sanity. Let's not take the mad German inventor, because she's got beginning sanity 15. Why not? He's also got 15. He's got 16. The morose veteran of the Great War. Somewhere I can't identify with him though. The controversial French mystic, has a beginning sanity of 13. He's got 14. I'm going to be the rebellious youth. I know English and I have a beginning sanity of 15. Why not? That sounds like fun. Now, of course, the question is, since this is an opposed game, how do you play it solo? Well, there are solo rules, official solo rules, which I don't like. And then there is the lurking horror, which is which I downloaded from Board Game Geek. So the lurking horror asks you to build 2 decks. One is the event deck, so that contains phobias, events like star events like sun, moon, Aldebaran in the sky, some weather events, some spells as well that will negatively affect me, and also some monsters. And here you've got the monster deck, which essentially contains monsters, hence the name. And you play against the story, as it were. And of course against time, because you want to complete your own story. And at the same time, of course, the mythos is going to try and screw you over. So here we've got our card. We're going to call her Sarah because she looks like a Sarah. So Sarah is going to pit herself against the mythos. Down here you would put your completed adventures. To her right you place her allies, to her left you place her tomes and artifacts. Mythos thread goes here, story deck goes here. So on our first turn what we do is we draw 13 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And now we check what we've got. We've got an adventure, which is good. So we know what we need to do. This is the interesting shop adventure. And the interesting shop adventure reads, spend the day traveling about town searching for that just right knick-knack to adorn your mantle. Visit 4 different city locations. So when we play locations, only the ones that are city locations would count. But it doesn't matter in which city you are. It doesn't say Providence or Arkham. It can be any city, but it has to be a city. Visit 4 different city locations where you might find an artifact or tome and find one thing that costs you at least 1 sanity point. So this is actually one that is a bit controversial because playing a tome will usually mean that you lose sanity. So the question is does a tome fulfill both conditions? We don't know. So let's see. What they advise you to do is in the game, a description, to always start with a location because that's where good stories begin. And that's the basic rules. And I don't have any problems with this and I think it does make sense. So let's see what we've got. We've got a couple of locations. So we'll just put this to us. Normally you wouldn't show this, but since we don't have an opponent, it doesn't matter. We've got an Arkham location, Boston, Innsmouth, Boston. We've got a spell, Arkham location, Danvers, which is important because that's where you can gain sanity because it's an insane asylum. And we've got a couple of allies. So we've got an ally from Arkham, an ally from Innsmouth, and an ally from Providence. There is no limit as to how many allies we can actually have. So, okay, that's Richard Upton Pickman. I'm going to put him here as well. So we've got 4 allies, several locations. Let's see. We don't have any tomes. But we've got 3 Arkham locations. So what we will do is we will And how many Boston locations do we have? We have 2. Yeah, but we actually don't really want to go to the sanitarium just yet. Okay, so what we're going to do is, because we also know, of course, what other, well, we should know, I haven't really looked at all of them in detail, but we kind of know what other adventures we have. So, and we also have to bear in mind that our maximum card is 5. So we have to otherwise discard down. So we want to play this smartly. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with, and we don't want to go to every single location just now, because we know that later on we will have to go to a cemetery. So how's about we start with Arkham Christchurch Cemetery. That's where we are. We have 15 beginning 15 beginning sanity, but we get +1 for going to this. And now I need a counter. So yeah, I was going to show you these. This is what I got off of the internet. It took me ages to import it from China. These are row counters, so those of you who knit will know what this is, and you can use them for all kinds of things. So her starting sanity is 15. We go to this, so she gets up to 16. This is her current sanity, which is good. So let's consult the rules, because I've never played this before. Whenever you leave a region or sub-region or dimension, or whenever you play a travel event, draw from the event deck. Note that this is not cumulative. You only draw 1 card at a time. If you travel by car from New York to Boston, you will only draw 1 event card, not 2. If you travel by train from New York to Boston, you will only need to draw 1 event card. When you play the travel by train card, you will not have to draw another one the next turn. When you take a turn to walk to a new sub-region, or when you move from one location to another in the country, you place your new location sideways on your story deck as per the standard rules, and that at the same time draw an event card. When you play a travel event, you always need to place the new location you are traveling to sideways on the travel event. Okay, so since we didn't really travel yet, we just basically popped up, nothing happens. And also when you travel within a city, you don't really travel, so this wouldn't happen. Drawing from the monster deck. Every time you arrive at a gate location, every time you use a gate to play a monster to your threat, and every turn you spend in a sanitarium. Okay, so that doesn't apply yet. So we are now in Arkham. What we can do is we can check if we want to play any allies. And we do have KJ Hooper, so we're going to play him. And he protects us from police investigation. And from... Oh, that's good. Sorry, he's over here. And from cards that cause us to lose artifacts and tomes. Okay. Okay. So then... we are going to go to the old cemetery. Are we? Yes, we are. So that's the next location. We don't really have a travel event here, because when you travel within a town, that doesn't apply, but it's got a gate symbol, so we have to draw a monster card, and we don't see what this is. This is the opposing threat, so we will put this face down. We could also now use this to play a monster ourselves, but we don't have any, so that's that. There is nothing else. So we are going to move to Boston. And we draw, sorry, this should go over here. We're going to draw an event. And this is actually a monster. And this monster will attack us. It has 3. We have 3. So between the two, actually nothing happens. Let me just check if they have anything to do with... No, they don't mention any special information around combat. So let's just check combat. Why is this actually... Is this the monster deck? Okay, sorry. This should have actually... Sorry, I drew this wrongly. I thought the event deck was on my left, so we're going to have to do it like this. So that would have been the event that we just drew, and this is the monster that went to our threat. Okay, so let's look at the... and it is a great old one. Each investigator flips face down one random ally at the beginning of each turn due to the petrifying nature of... Okay, but how do we get rid of this? And also it doesn't really... Okay, so this is a one-time effect, so we will just flip him face down. I don't know how you can actually unflip him then. And I'm not sure what this actually means. Yeah, that's a bit problematic. Voluntary lobotomy, combat. Okay, so essentially this one is flipped over. I don't know what this actually means. I will actually redo this because I would have to check what they think in this particular rule set, because it isn't in there what happens if this happens. So we'll just draw another event, and this is police investigation. At the beginning of the next round, the local police confiscate the 4 cards from the opponent's hand. Opponent draws 4 cards fewer than usual. We are protected from this because we've got KJ Hooper, so that's fine. So nothing happens. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to arrive at this location. We gain 1 sanity because of it. We're now at 17. And we can play an ally. And we're going to play Dr. Marinus Bicknell Willett. And then we are going to go to oh, sorry, that was wrong. I wanted to play Richard Upton Pickman because he's the Boston ally. Okay. And that is essentially... is it? Okay, we're going to go to Cops Hill Burial Ground, and there will be one more monster added to the threat. We can't really do anything, so we're going to travel to Innsmouth, which means we draw another event, and this one is Amnesia. Randomly choose one card from your opponent's hand that he or she must discard, then bury this card. Now, if we discard, if the randomly chosen card is our adventure, then we will have to wait for another one to come around. No, it's not. It's Robert Marsh, which is problematic because he's the corrupt cultist. So this gets discarded. Okay, so we arrive in Innsmouth, where we wanted to get Mr. Marsh, but we are not getting him because we have just discarded him. So now we add one more to this, and now I'm going to pass, and now I have to face this threat. So what happens is we turn these over. Are we in a water location? Yes, we are. Okay, let's see. Add 1 point to the value of this card if your opponent is in a cemetery. No, we're not. Ithaqua. Due to the intense cold and the blinding snow, lose 1 sanity point each time you play a travel card or when you alter a location card's orientation. Okay, so this one actually does ongoing damage, so we're going to put him here. So we face a threat of 2 for the ghouls, and the sand dwellers have a -1 because we are in a water location, because this one has the blue water icon, as you can see here. So we face a threat of 4, and we can now do 2 things. We can either commit our allies, which we don't, or we take the sanity loss ourselves, and we do this, and we basically go down to 13. Yeah. Here we are. So we're down to 13. These go away. We can't do anything in here, but what we're going to do is we're going to go to... So now we are at 5, so now we draw up to... Do we want to discard anything? No, we don't. Six, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And this is what I completely... So now we're back at 13. And we've got, there is nothing actually we can do unless we have somebody who would come from Innsmouth. She's from Providence. Yeah, that's about it. So we don't have any Innsmouth allies, so there is nothing really we can do because it's country and site. There is nothing we could play from here. We still have the same, how many cities? 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 city locations, which is all we essentially need. And we need to find an artifact. We have a Tommy gun, which we could play. And we don't have a tome, do we? No. She lives in Providence. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to drive to Providence. We're going to play the car. Day. Bury any night or day event in play. Bury this card if any day or night event is played. So we gain 1 sanity, which is good. Due to the intense cold and the blinding snow, lose 1 sanity point each time you play a travel card. So we're now down to 13 again. And since we can play one immediately, we're going to play a Providence card. So we're now in the library. Well, we could in theory play a tome, but we don't have one. So what we're going to do is we're going to play our allies. We're going to play Dr. Marinus Bicknell Willett plus Roby Harris, our steadfast wife. Can we play an artifact here? No, we can't. Okay, but what we're going to do is we're going to play Discover Secret Stash, which allows us to play an artifact, and we're going to give this artifact, which is a Tommy gun, to KJ Hooper, the Private Eye. So he now attacks for 6. Well, actually, no, we don't. We're going to give this to... Or do we? Well, no, we're actually going to. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so we have 1 artifact, but what we also need is a... Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to play this sideways, which means we're going to travel to Boston. We're going to lose 1 sanity because of Ithaqua. We also have to draw an event, and it is Harney Reginald opens fire. Bury opponent's ally of up to 2 points. Then bury this card. Oh, that's bad. But we do have 1 more wife, so we're going to get rid of her. We're going to bury her, because what now happens is anything that is buried cannot count towards a different adventure. So we arrive. We draw 1 monster because we arrived at a gate location. So there's threat here now in the area, and we're also going to play our own. Sorry, that's not what I wanted to play. I wanted to play the Martinson Kin, which is a monster. So now we are in Boston. We have 5 cards, which is our maximum. So we will now end our turn, which means we now fight. Vampire. Invisible. Add 1 to the value of this card at night. It is day. Okay, so I will rule that, and they are not explicit about this, that Ithaqua is actually an event, storm, waning moon, and as soon as this one comes in, he becomes obsolete because he is kind of like a day-night event. Add +1 to the value of this card at night. Well, it is actually bright day. Discard this card if direct sunlight is in play. It's not. We lose 1 sanity. No, this is actually what happens to the player who plays it. So what happens is it is invisible. Now, invisible monsters bypass these monsters, so they can't really... let's see. Okay, so we have 3 against 2. So we're going to use the Martensen Kin, and I'm going to absorb 1 point of damage. The vampire goes away and the Martensen Kin dies. So now we're going to draw up to 13. So we've got 5, 7, 9, 10, 13. And you can only use a gate 1 time. So now we have used this gate to summon a monster. We can't do this again. We've also got the Curious Parcel now. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to travel to Innsmouth. Star, Aldebaran, moves in the sky. If Aldebaran is not already in play, then play this card as normal. If it is already in play, when revealed, bury all other events except travel cards. While in play, only 1 phobia can affect any investigator. Okay, that's fine. So we're now in the Wait House. We draw 1 card from the opposing threat. And we are going to summon a Mygo, and Mygos join with other Mygo, so we can play both of them. And we have used this. Oh, we also lose 1 sanity for traveling here, so we're now down to 10. Like so. We're going to go to the Marsh Refinery, and we're going to play 1 more monster, a Byaki. And we still don't have anything in here that helps us in any way. We're going to go to Arkham, so we're going to travel. Draw a card. Schizophrenia. Multiple personalities. Lose 1 additional sanity point each time that you cast a spell. Okay, so this one affects us, so we're going to put it here. We arrive in Arkham. Reveal the top card of your Mythos deck. If it is a monster, it attacks immediately. Allies may defend you, then discard it. Discard any other card drawn. Okay, so first of all, we gain +6 sanity. If this is a tome that I'm drawing now, I'm going to scream. So we're now at 16. We draw this. It's not... Oh, God, it's a wife. Okay, not good. We can now spend 1 turn here to bury 1 phobia, which means we will actually have to pass to do this. So we are going to do this. This goes away, but it means we will be attacked by the opposing Mythos, and we have zombies and Shoggoths. So let's see. Add 2 points to the value of this card if your opponent's threat includes Elder Things. No, we don't have any Elder Things. We have Aldebaran moves in the sky, so our Byaki is worth 6 points. And we have the Living Dead. Okay, so we have 7 on this side, and we have 6, 8 on this side. So we bury the Shoggoth and the zombie. We win. They go away, and we bury the Byaki and 1 of our Martensen Kin. That was lucky that this card came out, because I don't think I've got this one in my own deck. So as you can see now, you can see how combinations work. So if you have the Byakhee in your deck, you would want to have Aldebaran moves in the sky as well. But obviously I built this really quickly just to make sure that I get, you know, the requirements for the adventures. I haven't really done any combination play between the different cards just for demonstration purposes. Of course, you do have a lot of deck construction possibilities. 2, 4, 6, 7. So we need to discard down to 5, and we're going to get rid of gonna get rid of 2 spells. we're gonna draw back to 13. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I need one of those tomes. And I haven't got a single tome. That's impossible. I know that they're in there. Okay. Good. So let's see. We can meet Randolph Carter because we're in any city. And we can bring in, we're going to play surprise meeting to bring in Abigail Winthrop Marsh, who's in Innsmouth, but we have a surprise meeting with her because I guess she comes to visit while we're in the asylum. We're in Arkham. And I need a tome. This is impossible. And since all of them are in glyphs, I would also need somebody who speaks glyph. I do know I've got people who speak glyph, but I don't have them with me. Now that's not good. Okay, so let's see. We're going to travel to Providence. And it is now Eclipse of the Sun affects all investigators. Bury any day or night event in play. Bury this card if any. Okay, event is played. Okay, nothing happens. It's now day. We arrive. You may remain here for 1 turn and bury 1 phobia. That's good. We are in Providence. We're going to go to another place in Providence. North Burial Ground, which is a cemetery. We will use this to play a monster. At the same time, somebody else will play a monster. Then we're going to go to Robert Blake's study, which also allows us to play a monster because it's a gate location. And we're now down to 5 cards, and we're going to pass. So we're going to face this threat. And we have a mummy. Add 1 to the value of this card if either of you or your opponent is in a cemetery, which we are not. Sand dwellers. We do have a body of water, so they're only worth 2, so we have 5 in total. We've got Martinson Kin and Mygo. And we're just going to use our Martinson Kin and our Mygo to oppose this threat, and it goes away. So we draw up to 13. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Let's hope that we finally get this stupid tome. Yes, we do, but we don't have anybody who speaks glyphs. Oh, here we have someone who speaks glyphs. Woohoo! Okay, so now let's see what we can do here. We are in Providence, so let's see if we can meet this guy in Providence, the guy who speaks glyphs. Yes, so we're going to meet George Gamel Angel, who speaks glyphs. We've got plenty of allies at this stage. So this allows us to get glyphs out. We are in Providence. Do we have anything else happening in Providence at the moment? No, we don't. But that's fine. We're going to play Discover Secret Cache, which allows us to immediately play an artifact or tome, which we're going to do. So we're going to play the Penapi scripture, which is in glyph. And we lose 2 sanity over this. And while this card is in play, we may breathe underwater, which is quite helpful. So let's see. We do have the Curious Parcel and we have an interesting shop. The Curious Parcel requires us to travel to 1 library, 1 cemetery, and 1 gate location. And we need to have a tome, which we do. And we need to have 2 allies that are either authors, scholars, professors, or artists. Let's see. Artist and professor. Okay, so we have 1 library. So we have 2 allies, one of whom is an artist and one of whom is a professor. Check. We have 1 tome. Check. And it's in a language other than English. Oh, sorry. We need to have 1. Oh God, we need 1 spell in this. So almost. It was this close. Okay, that's fine. We're going to go to Arkham next. We're going to drive to Arkham. And we have a storm. Bury travel by air cards on top of any story deck. That doesn't happen. Ignore sanity loss gain. No gate use. No travel by air cards may be played. Okay, so we cannot really have any other... Okay, that's not good. But okay. So we arrive in Arkham. Where we could, in theory, play a... Where we could play... a traveling where we could play an artifact, but we don't have one, but we're going to play Harvey Walter. Okay, good. So we can't use any gates. Haha. Oh, now we've got 5. We've got another one, Knee Deep in Doom. Many of the Mythos tales feature a poor, unfortunate fellow. You must have discovered physical proof of the existence of the Mythos. 20 points worth of monsters in your story deck. Let's see how many we've got. We've got 4, 2, 4, 8, 12, 14. Not quite. We can't gain sanity, can we? No. Okay, we're going to... Since we can't play anything at the moment anyway, we're going to discard 2 cards. There is nothing in the opposing threat, so we will just draw up 2 13 cards. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, we finally got our spells. Yay. So let's see. The problem with the spell that I just received is, however, that it can't be, that it isn't part of this Penapi scripture. That's too bad. So we need to get the Eld down shards. We're in Arkham. That's not good. Okay, so first of all, we're gonna meet our friend Raymond Legrasse, because he's in any city. We're in Arkham, that doesn't help us at all. We're gonna play surprise meeting, and we're gonna meet Mr. Edgar Allan Poe. And then we're going to play the Jewelry of the Deep Ones. It's an artifact which makes us lose 1 sanity. Oh no! Ignore sanity, gain loss. Yoo-hoo! So we're not losing any sanity over this, which is brilliant. So now what we're going to do is we're going to travel to Boston, which means we're going to draw a card, and it actually makes everything go night. And the storm effect is done. We arrive, we gain 1 sanity. We're at 15 now. And at this stage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the playthrough. And by doing the following, I'm going to play this additional tome, which we can because we're in a library, reduce my sanity by 2. And I'm going to add create time warp to it. So this one is now in this tome. This tome can hold 2 spells. So we have now fulfilled the requirements for the Curious Parcel. We found 1 tome, actually 2, in a language other than English. We learned 1 spell. We met an author, actually 2, and professors and artists, so we're fine. And we went to a library, 1 cemetery, and a gate location. So we are actually at the moment in a library. We have been to plenty gate locations, you've seen those, and we also needed a cemetery. And as you know, we were at a cemetery at the very beginning of the game as well. So we have now accumulated 6 points. And we have 5 left. Actually, when do we draw? So that's actually the end of this round, and there is nothing we can do. And I think I may have made a mistake. Okay, so can we actually solve multiple? The one thing that is really funny is it doesn't actually explain how to resolve an adventure. Oh. Oh, actually, I was mistaken. I thought you needed to get 21. But it says here that the game ends as soon as you complete 1 adventure. That's boring. So I say we need to complete 21 points of adventures. And we've also completed the interesting shop because we went to 4 different city locations. We've got 1 artifact and 1 tome. The artifact actually cost us 1 sanity point, and we have 1 tome. So we now have 11 points that we have managed to gain. And we also get 1 sanity point for the first one and 2 for the second. So now we are at 4 cards and we would draw up to the next one. There is no counter threat, so no battle ensues, and then we can try and keep playing. So I hope that this gives you an impression. I think the winning conditions... okay, it says here, you win by completing 15 points of adventure. So now we need to keep going. Okay. Okay. There's also a caveat. If you want to complete in this solo variant, if you want to complete an adventure, you have to have a number of monsters buried in your story deck equal to that particular adventure's points and the sanity gain. So the Curious Parcel is 6 and a sanity gain of 2, which means 8 points in total. So we would need 8 points of monsters, and we do have those. We've got 2, 4, we've got plenty, so this is enough. Okay, so this is something, as I said, I've never played this sort of variant before, but I'm actually liking it. It's a good one. So have a good day. Bye-bye.